Hello, it's Jana, and I did my presentation on the monarch butterfly migration. So, a little bit of an overview on monarch butterflies. Their scientific name is Danaus plexippus. At least I think I'm saying that correctly. And as for their range, there are two separate populations of monarch butterflies, and they are separated by the Rocky Mountains. The population that this lecture or this presentation is going to concern more are the eastern population, and they range as far north as southern Canada in the summer and as far south as the mountains of central Mexico in the fall. Mexico is where they migrate to and overwinter at. So for their diet, the caterpillars of the monarch butterfly feed exclusively on milkweed, and milkweed is like kind of toxic, so this toxicity allows the monarch butterflies and the caterpillars to have some kind of defense against predators, because if they get eaten, they don't taste good. The toxicity of the milkweed continues into adulthood, and the actual adult butterflies feed on nectar from a wide range of plants, including milkweed as well. Their conservation status is that monarchs themselves aren't endangered, but their migration route is endangered. So while they aren't endangered yet, in the coming future, if things don't change, if their migration route isn't helped along with conservation efforts, then monarch butterflies themselves could become endangered. And I have a picture on the next slide, but monarch butterflies are large butterflies and they have deep orange wings, and the orange wings are also a signal to predators to stay away. And they have black borders on their wings and veins and a wingspan of 3 to 4 inches. Male monarchs have 2 black spots in the center of their hind wings, and this is how they can be told apart from the females. So here's a picture of the monarch butterfly, and I'm sure they are seen in Illinois from time to time at least. So a little bit about the life cycle and their migration. Most adult monarch butterflies live for only a few weeks. It's about 4 weeks, I think, eating and reproducing. Their entirety of their adult lives are devoted to consuming food, finding mates, and reproducing. The last generation to hatch in the summer undergoes a fall migration to Mexico, which, like I said, is where they overwinter. And this generation can live for up to 8 months. So it's considerably longer than the typical generation. In Mexico, around March, the overwintering monarchs begin their journey to go back north. And once this migration begins, this is when the monarchs become sexually mature and they mate. Prior to this, the reason that they live for so long is because they delay their sexual maturity until they're ready to return home back to the north. So once they're ready to go back north, they become sexually mature, they find their mates, and they also find milkweed plants, which is where they lay their eggs. Once they lay their eggs on the milkweed plants, the adult monarchs die, and their offspring are who continue the journey. The full journey from Mexico back to the United States and Canada takes about 3 to 5 generations of monarchs. The average is about 4 generations. And like I said before, the final generation are the ones that live for up to 8 months, and they repeat the cycle and make the journey back to the overwintering grounds in late summer. Here is a picture of the migration of the monarch butterflies. This was my favorite picture that I found, and you can see how this encompasses the entire eastern part of the United States, and they go down to Mexico, and then whenever they're ready to return in March, they come back up and repopulate the whole eastern part of the United States. So their final summer, the final summer generation travels over 3,000 miles to Mexico, which is really crazy for one little butterfly. So this super generation, which is what they call it, is triggered by something. And so what they found is that the decreasing day length and the temperatures, and also the aging milkweed and nectar sources, is what triggers the super generation to be born and make their journey. So, while monarchs themselves are not endangered yet, there are obviously threats to monarchs and their migration. So a few big ones are habitat loss, and this habitat loss is both in their breeding grounds, in the overwintering habitats, and it's also in the habitats just throughout the United States. The western population overwinters in California, so there's significant habitat loss in all areas concerning the monarch butterfly. Another big threat is climate change, which has affected a lot of wildlife. Pesticides are a big one. Natural enemies, including parasitoids, parasites, ants, spiders, wasps, those are a threat to monarchs and their migration, and other anthropogenic concerns such as untimely management and spread of non-native species. This concerns basically like things that you wouldn't even think that would threaten monarchs and their migration, but mowing or unable to keep up with the lands that are being used by the monarchs. This is a big one. And this is primarily humans who are causing these concerns as well. So there are ways to help monarchs to survive, and it's funny because my mom was just talking about how she wants to plant milkweed in our backyard so that we can attract monarch butterflies. But in the past 20 years, the number of monarchs has decreased significantly, and individuals can actually help a lot, and this would be a really great thing to do in quarantine. So a couple different ways to help is planting native milkweed and nectar plants that are local in your area. Another important thing that you could do is garden organically. Educating others about pollinators and their conservation is another way that you can spread knowledge in your community. And then helping scientists to track the numbers of monarchs in your area is another way that us as individuals could help scientists maintain the numbers of monarchs in the wild. So here is my works cited, and that is my presentation on monarch butterflies and their migration.